Hi, everybody. Welcome to Mapping Hour. We're here, excited to be with you, saddened about the conditions that are causing this, and it's the pandemic that is sending a lot of you into doing school from home. And so we've got some parents who are all of a sudden teachers, and we got some teachers who are teaching from a distance. But we wanted to make sure that we got to bring you a set of content. And so let's see. Hey, I've got my colleagues here, Tom Baker, Kylie Danya, Joseph Kursky. All right, I'm going to share my screen here. And let's see if we can do this, sharing our screen. All right. So I'm Charlie Fitzpatrick, and you've met my colleagues. They're going to be with us the whole time here. And this is the mapping hour. This is the time for us to work through some things about ArcGIS Online. How do we use it to do class? You can find more information at esriurl.com/mappinghour, and you can reach the four of us at mappinghour@esri.com. So we got a bunch of things that we're going to go through today. Just a little bit of a preview here. We've got some intros. We're going to need to talk a little bit about the school bundle. We've got some work with ArcGIS Online, with plain vanilla ArcGIS Online, and then we're going to work with an app. Now, the school bundle. Esri makes ArcGIS Online and a bunch of tools available to every school around the world. And we're going to take advantage of some of those as part of this set of videos. We're going to be working inside of an ArcGIS Online organization. We're going to be working with some web apps and mobile apps and premium apps even. And part of this is that we can do this inside of any different device, and I'll show you that in a second. Windows, Mac, Chromebook, iOS, Android, all of those things. And this is free to schools. And there are lots of schools that are already using this, and you can read more about this at esri.com/schools, and that's where you can actually even say, I'm going to get a set of software for my school. And that's something that a teacher can do or an employee of the school can do. Now, we're going to be working for the first 3 hours of this series without being logged in. Anybody can do this anywhere without a login. But for hours 4 through 20, we're going to be logged in. So we want to make sure that you get to log in and that you have the right level of login. In ArcGIS Online, in an organization, you're going to need to have a publisher login, or you could be an admin, or you could even be in what we call a custom role that has publishing capacity. That'll be just fine. You can use your own login if you've got one from a personal operation that you're working on, or you can, if you're a teacher, you can talk with somebody who is the admin at your school org. If you are teaching and your school doesn't have an organization, you can go ahead and request one, but it takes a few days for that to arrive, and you might be getting ready to binge watch this, and so need it in another hour or 3. And so it'll be, you may be ready then to do this last option here to request a temporary mapping hour login. And if you go ahead and complete the survey at esriurl.com/mappinghour, you can get a login through that process. Now, if you've gone in and said, hey, I filled out the survey already, didn't realize I needed a login, but now I want to log in, just go ahead and fill out the survey again. We'll be able to tell. So that's what we're going to get started working with. And what I want to do now is to demonstrate that you can do this on multiple devices. And over next to me, I've got my iPad. I want to share something from my iPad here and say, go ahead and start sharing. I know how I can do this. I think I know how I can share this. I need to share my content. There we go. I'm going to share my screen and start broadcast in 3, 2, 1. And here comes my iPad. I'm going to say, yep, let's see what I've got here. I've got ArcGIS Online working on my iPad, and you're seeing the map viewer. This is actually the beta version, the next generation of the map viewer that you're seeing. And this is a place that I know. I've been to there many times, and that's actually what it looks like. But it's not just the iPad that can do that. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording here and show you that you can do this on your Chromebook. Lots of schools have Chromebooks, and here on my Chromebook, I'm going to begin sharing, and here comes the weather, the current weather. All right, so you're seeing what is the current weather. Actually, let me just zoom in a little bit so that you can see this is live on the fly. And we got a little rain, got some wind, got a variety of things. So you can do this on any kind of device. You can do it on a Macintosh. You can do it on a Windows platform. Some of us are on one. Some of us are on the other. You can do it on a Chromebook. You can do it on a tablet. It's a little harder to do on a smartphone. There are certain activities that you can do on a smartphone, but you really want to have this on a larger device in order to see everything that you want for the activities that we're going to be doing. As part of those activities, we're actually going to send you out and say, hey, gather some data, do something on your device. That's one of those things that we want people to do. So think about how cool ArcGIS Online is to be able to do this at the breakfast table, on your Chromebook, in your bedroom, on your iPad, down in the playroom, on your Android tablet, in your sibling's bedroom, on a phone, all kinds of ways that you can do this. So what is it that you can do? Let's get started. Let's get into the action here. And Kylie, are you ready to take me on a trip here?
Sure, let's go ahead and jump in and check out what we can do. Give Charlie a second to get his screen shared so we can look at the map and what you can do with it in the browser. So where we're going first here is actually we're going to go to arcgis.com, and you'll see the site that you can go to along with us, or if you want, you can do this later. Do remember it's a video, so if we're going a little fast or slow for you, you can go ahead and change that as you're working.
So this is the thing that we're going to, is that right?
Yep, so this is the article, and it takes you through a bunch of steps. This is a link that's in this presentation, so you can go to it and work through it on your own. We're going to basically follow it, but kind of loosely.
Okay. Oops. Wait a minute. Here we go.
Yep. Great.
This is where you want me to start.
Okay. Yep. This is what you'll see the first time you go to arcgis.com. And don't worry about that sign in button. It's the first thing in your face, but the stuff we're doing right now, you don't need to click it. So instead, at the top, right below where your mouse is there, Charlie, go ahead and click on map. Let's jump in, and we're going to do 5 activities. It's called the 5x5 because there's 5 activities, and going through the document, each will take you around 5 minutes. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to learn the 3 most important and common ways people interact with maps. Now, you've seen some of these before, so you might get excited, and that's okay. Remember, it's a video. If you need to pause and play, you can always do that. Whether you are 4 or 50, when I've walked people through this, the first thing they do, they need to see where they live now, where they lived last week, where they grew up, and their mother's house. That's fine. Take a minute and do it. You can come back when you're ready. All right, now that we've got Charlie ready, Charlie, first let's show how you can pan the map, which is what we call moving the map around. You're going to go down and click. You see that little fist show up, and you can move it. So you can change what part of the United States you're looking at here. Or if we wanted, we could actually look at different areas in the world. Charlie often likes to pan over and find different places. Here we are over in China.
I like to play Magellan.
Yep, it's going all the way around. Let's see if we make it back. And then once we make it back to the US, Charlie, let's go ahead and we're going to zoom in. Zooming in means we're going to get closer and see things in more detail. Now, to do this, you can use the buttons on the map, like Charlie's showing right there. You could also use your mouse scroll wheel. You could double click. And then there's, on a touch device, use your fingers and pinch and zoom. There is another one some people don't know of. Now, let's say Charlie wants to zoom in on that St. Louis area he's at now. He can draw a box, and it'll zoom to that box. Now, to do that, first hold down the Shift key on your keyboard.
Shift key, got it.
Yep, hold that one down, and while you're holding, click your mouse button down and hold it, and drag a box. Perfect, that looks great. And once you let go, we'll zoom to that extent. This we'll often refer to as a rubber band box. All right, you can use these tools now. You know how to zoom in. Let's go ahead and zoom out. So to do that, there's a button there. Again, you can use all the different tools. Use the mouse scroll wheel, use your fingers. You can zoom all the way out and see the world. You can zoom all the way in and see your house.
Ooh.
All right. Now, another thing you might want to do when you're navigating around this map is search for things you know. So go ahead. There's a search box that's in the upper right-hand corner. Go ahead and search for your city name so that you're looking at somewhere that's a little bit familiar to you. All right. Now that little box that appears on the map, it shows the information about what we just searched for. We'll call this a pop-up. We'll look at those later. For now, just click the X in the corner and close it. We don't need to worry about that. What we are going to look at now is just kind of what you see on the map here. You can see some roads. You may see the intersection that you live near. You may see a park that you often go to. But it kind of looks a little bit like a cartoon. What if I wanted to see it like a picture? Well, this is called the base map, and it goes behind all your other data. So Charlie, go ahead in the upper left corner. There's a base map button, and click that for me. Great. In here, you can see there's a whole set of different base maps. First, let's go ahead and click the imagery one right at the top there so that people can see what happens. All right, now you're seeing a different view. We're at the same place, but now it's like you're looking at a picture, right? I'm sure you've seen this in other mapping software where you can change a little bit about what it is. But here there were a lot more options. So if you want, take a minute, go explore some of those base maps available to you. And that is going to complete our first activity. We've now looked at how we can move around and navigate our map. You ready for number 2, Charlie?
I'm ready.
All right. Next, what we're going to look at is measuring and marking up the map. So we're going to start off with measuring. So Charlie, use that skill of zooming really far out, or use that home button in the middle there. That'll reset to where this map was when you started playing with it.
Okay.
Yeah. Now we're going to do a measurement. So there's a measure button kind of next to that search box you used in the upper right-hand corner.
Okay.
Go ahead and click in that. And you're going to pick the distance one. It looks like a ruler with some arrows above it. And we're going to measure from Los Angeles to New York. So to do this, click once on Los Angeles, move your mouse over to New York, and then double click when you get there.
Hey, my line is bending.
Yeah. Funny fact, the Earth isn't flat. So you'll notice that the shortest distance isn't going to look like a flat line. And that's what this is showing you. Now, at the same time, you can see the result up in the measure window. It's about 2,500 miles across, and you can see that information there. But there's other tools. There's not just lines. If you look to the right of that one we picked with the ruler, there's kind of a map with a crosshair on it. Go ahead and click that. Now, latitude and longitude are names that mean the coordinates or places on the Earth. So they're numbers that'll represent that. Now, as we move the mouse onto the map, you can see those numbers changing. So it's showing you the coordinates or the latitude and longitude of where the map is. And you'll notice one number is negative, one is positive. These are completely going to depend on where on the globe you're looking. All right, we're going to do another search now to do some more, now that we're done with measuring, we're going to go ahead and mark up the map. So go ahead and back in that search box, you can close the measure one. We're done with that.
Okay.
Yep, clear out that search you did before. Yep, and go ahead and type in White House and just press enter. So we don't have to give an exact address. We can give a thing, and the search will also find those kinds of places. You'll see that pop up again. Now don't close this one yet, Charlie, because we're going to look at it for a minute. You can see some information about our search result. You could get back and see some more results. Or the most interesting thing to me is down at the bottom there where it says add to map notes. Let's go ahead and click on that. You notice on the left, you're now looking at content. It has map notes and streets. There's a new thing in there. And on the map, you see a pin, that blue pin. So let's go back over to that pin on the White House over on the map and go ahead and click on it. We've added a pin to the map, but maybe we don't like how it looks. So you can still see the information about it and go ahead and close that pop-up. I always skip this step. In the upper right-hand corner, go ahead and click Modify Map. What that's going to do is let us change, yep, all the way up there. What that's going to do is let us actually change things about the map. So if we don't like that blue pin, let's make it look different. Go ahead and click on it again. Now you'll see there's an option to edit. So let's click that. And this pin is a symbol or an icon that's representing something. So at the bottom in that window, you can see a change symbol option. So go ahead and click there. And you're going to see a whole bunch of different things you could turn this symbol into. Right now, Charlie's seeing some people, places. You can pick shapes. You could pick transportation. These are all basically sets of icons or symbols that you can use on your map. So pick one that looks fun to you today, Charlie. Not too concerned exactly what, because we're just playing right now. Pick one that you like. I know you're fond of that schoolhouse one. You can go ahead and change the symbol size at the bottom. Maybe you want it bigger or smaller on your map. You can either type in or you can, yep, you can either type in that box there or you can use the little slider. Make it really big. Hit OK. You'll see our pin on the map has changed. All right. Now, you'll notice on the left, there's a whole bunch of other things. There's some pins, there's some lines, there's some text, there's some areas. Grab one of those. We can add our own information onto the map. So right now there's a pin and Charlie can place it there and he can add a description. If he wanted, he could put some image information. He can put information in there about what this pin is and why he's put it on the map. Go ahead and close that out, Charlie. And maybe draw something. Pick one of those areas. Maybe freehand's pretty popular. Maybe he wants to outline an area he wants to visit or look at the part he wants to go explore. Or maybe he's going to save this to share with someone else and he wants them to know where to focus their attention. All right, so we've added some information on the map. We've measured some things. Our second activity here is complete. You ready for the next one, Charlie?
I'm ready.
All right, and remember again, this is a video. If you want to go play with some of the things we were just learning, just pause it, play, and join us again when you're ready. All right, for this next one, we're going to explore a little bit. So first, we've done some work here, and we don't really want to use any of it. So let's get a clean new map to work with. In the upper right-hand corner, kind of where we were clicking Modify Map, you'll see a New Map option. Go ahead and click on that and pick Create New Map. Go ahead and say, yes, open it. We're not worried about saving that work we just did. All right, you're set up how you were when you first came in now. And now, we'll practice our zooming so that you can see most of North America. Great, that's perfect. Now, go over to Modify Map again, because again, we want to change something here. So let's go in that upper right-hand corner and start changing our map. But this time what we're going to do is in the far left side, you'll see an Add button. What we're going to do is find some information that already exists to add into our map. So up at the top there, we're going to click Add and pick Search for Layers. Now I'm going to tell you what to type into this search box right below where your mouse is now. Don't worry too much about it. We'll dig into more about what it means and how to do really good searches on your own later in this series. For now, just type 2012 population density. And then you're going to type a space, the word owner, a colon, and Esri. And what that's saying is there's a ton of data. We'd like stuff that Esri made just so we know a little bit more about it. And go ahead and click enter once you're ready there. All right, we're going to go ahead and click on that first result. We can see the 2012 population density. And when we click on it, we see some information about it. Now, don't get worried about the fact that it says things like deprecated and mature support. What that's telling you is there is newer data available. This one isn't regularly updated anymore, but it's fine for what we're doing right now. So at the bottom of that little tab or panel, just go ahead and click Add to Map. Great.
But
you
I
can now
have
see.
clicked, I see there's like a little button here that I could have maybe, can I click one of these instead?
Yep, it'll do the same thing. If you know that's the layer you want and you don't want to see the details, it'll shortcut you right to adding it on the map.
Cool.
And be aware your students, as you're working through this, or your children, if you're a parent at home doing this, are going to be clicking everything. But they're not going to break anything. We're letting Charlie go wild in here. We're not worried about it. We can always reset. We can always try again. There's nothing that's going to cause problems, no matter what he clicks on in here. He'll be fine. All right, so go ahead, and we want to get rid of some of these panels to focus back on our map. And one way you can do that is go in the upper left-hand corner, and you could do it that way, or you can go click Details up there in the left. The Details is going to show you what's in your map. Go ahead and click over to Content just so we can look at that. And you can see now that you have population density on there, as well as the one below. That's your base map that we looked at earlier. So right now we're using the topographic base map. All right, go ahead over to the map and click on a state that you want to explore right now. All right, Alaska. It's a good choice.
Searching.
So what's happening right now is it's getting the information that we just added to the map about population density. And you can see some information in the pop-up. So now your pop-up isn't showing what your search result is, but it's showing some information based on what you've put on the map. Now, let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit on whichever area you want. Pick somewhere to explore, Charlie. And you'll see the map changes. Well, now if we click, let's see what happens. So now we're getting some county data. We're getting county populations. One thing that's really cool here is that's something you can't do very well. Not only can you not click on a paper map, but change it based on the scale you're looking at. Whether I hold the paper close to my face or farther away, it doesn't change the information on it. Now, one thing you may notice is this is a lot of colors, and we can click on it and learn things, but what if I just want an idea of what I'm looking at? What does this all mean? Over next to the content button, over on the left-hand side at the top there, to the right of content, there's a legend. If you click that, that's going to define for you what these symbols and items on the map mean. So here you can see that the darker colors mean that's denser population. And so that makes sense with what we're seeing. We're looking kind of at the LA and San Diego areas, and there's clearly more population density there than some of the other areas in California. All right, one other thing we're going to...
The colors stay when I zoom in and out. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Yeah, no worries. Yep, again, this is fun. Play with it. Don't feel you have to stick to our script or just do the things I'm saying. Like Charlie, he gets curious about something. He wants to click on it and play with it, and that's perfect. That's what we want to see right now. All right, but as he's playing here, let's zoom in a bit, Charlie. And one thing you'll notice is you can only see the colors. It's kind of hard at a certain point to tell where you are and what you're looking at. So let's go ahead, go back in that left-hand panel, and go back to content instead of legend. There's a tool in here that's going to help you see some more information. So you'll notice with the layer, one thing you can do is there's a checkbox to the right of 2012. If you check on the little checkbox to the left, it goes away. Check it again, it comes back. So that's one way to see where we are. But another way is, see the little ellipses right under the 3 dots there? Go ahead and click on those, and you'll see that the second option down is transparency. So what you're doing here is you're saying, I don't want this to be drawn so solid. It's like the difference between using a marker really heavy and a crayon where you could use it a little lighter and see right through and see multiple things at once. So as Charlie slides it there, you can see it changes from not seeing any at all to about half and half. And you can see both the labels and information of where you are, as well as some of those colors. So again, this is really powerful because you can configure a little bit the map to see the things that you need to see. Because usually when we're in here, we're trying to ask a question, learn something about our data. These are techniques that you can use that'll help you do that. All right, activity 3, explore. We good, Charlie?
I'm good. More.
All right, number 4. So our fourth one is actually going to be, I mentioned at one point that you could save your work and share it with someone. Now, we can't right now because we're not logged in, so don't worry about that. What we can do is we can look at something someone else has shared. So I already set Charlie up with this. And Charlie, just go ahead and switch over to your next tab that you have already open. And he got here through a URL that's available if you follow the 5x5 document, or we'll share it later as well. And this is a recent earthquakes map. So what we're looking at is earthquakes that have happened over the last 30 days. One thing that's pretty cool about this is not a map we just made. This information is coming in from a feed, and we're bringing it into the map. So we made this quite a long time ago, but yet it's still the last 30 days. As Charlie's panning around, you can see here some of the skills that we learned in the last few minutes. You can see they've set up some symbology for those earthquakes. You can see there's a color scheme to it. We have the legend opened on the left. You can see there's a different base map used behind here than the one we were looking at earlier. It looks a little bit different. That's all pretty cool. So if we go over to content, we can go ahead as well, and maybe this map's a little more information than we want to see. So let's uncheck that first layer, turning it off. Again, a skill that we've already seen once. And now you can focus just on these earthquakes by magnitude. And you can see that information a little bit more clearly by taking some other information out of the map. Maybe someone else is looking at something for depth, though, and they'd use the other view. All right, we've seen a saved map. We've played a little bit in there. We're ready for our final activity. Are you ready, Charlie?
I'm ready.
All right, so for this last part, we're going to look at some apps. Now, what we've been looking at here are maps, and in a minute, my colleague Joseph is going to go into more detail. So just play along with me, assume you know the difference, and we're just going to experience some. So right now, Charlie, go over to your next tab. And again, these tabs Charlie has set up are all coming straight from that 5x5 document that you have access to. Well, before we were looking at a nice flat map. It looked like a paper map that we had printed, laid out on the desk in front of us. What do you think of this one, Charlie?
I love a globe. And I love the kids' globe here. This is like the one I had.
It's definitely a fun one. I love the little whales and dolphins in the water. And one thing you'll notice, he's been spinning the globe, right? We can still navigate it. We can move it around. We can even zoom in and look closer. So with this online data, you can work in both flat maps or 2-dimension and 3-dimension. So you have that choice.
And I have some pictures down below here. I have like
Yeah, so just like we could change the base map before, you can change the base map that's used on the globe as well. Awesome. All right. Again, remember, if you, like Charlie, just want to play for a minute, press pause, play. But Charlie, I'm going to ask you to stop playing for a minute so we can jump over to the next tab.
The next tab.
This next tab is going to show an app that looks at elevation profiles. So Charlie, zoom into an area that you're interested in. We're going to maybe pick a mountainy area so we can see some elevation. Yeah,
I want to go visit Joseph.
Perfect. And you saw he used a technique we learned earlier, that rubber band box, where you're going to use the shift key and then click and drag to make that box. It zooms you in really nicely. Now, while you're here, Charlie, in that gray box at the bottom where it says Elevation Profile Maker, there's a pencil on the right. So let's go ahead and click that. And this is going to be similar to when you were measuring. You're going to click once to start drawing, and then double click when you get to the end of the line you want to make. Now, if we wait a second here, it's actually generating an elevation profile. So we can see what the terrain in that section was like. So this app takes this information on the map, and even though we're looking at that flat paper map, it can look at what the hill actually looks like.
Ooh. Hey, the little blue dot is moving with me.
Yeah, that's one of the really cool things because it's associated. It knows exactly where that elevation marker is on the map, even as you're interacting with the elevation profile. All right, let's look at one more. Charlie, go ahead and jump to your next tab. Now, I know one of the things that we're all dealing with right now is staying in our homes a lot more than we like. And sometimes we really wish we could get outside. Well, the cool thing about this app is it lets us pretend we can. This might look similar to one of the maps you might get handed to you if you go maybe rent a bike in an area and want to explore a city. And in this case, we are looking at a bike tour of Washington, D.C. You can see on the map, if Charlie moves his mouse over on the left here, there's some red dots, and that shows where each of these pictures that you're seeing are. And there's a yellow line. That's a suggested route that someone could follow through the city to go explore. Now, we can't go outside, travel to DC right now necessarily, but we can at least look around from in our own homes. So as we click on different points along the map, you're seeing pictures and a little bit of information about that place. So while we can't go, this map is at least letting us pretend we can have a little bit of a vacation. All right. Any other questions or anything, Charlie? Or are you ready to move on?
Yeah, this is great. I'll be here for a little bit here. But do we need to move now?
Well, what we're going to do is we're actually going to turn it over to Joseph. And now I've talked a little bit about showing you guys some apps, and he's really going to dig into this whole app versus map and some of the power that that has. So Charlie, you can keep playing if you'd like. Let's go ahead and turn it over to Joseph.
Do I have to stop sharing then? Okay. All right. Stop sharing.
Well, thank you, Kylie and Charlie. That was wonderful. Well, folks, we're going to continue with exploring maps and apps. And without getting into too much of the terminology, Kylie did mention a couple of things earlier. We were starting with ArcGIS Online using the mapping interface. We're going to explore that a bit more. We're going to talk about apps. We're going to explore a way that you can look at both in a 2D and 3D in the same view. Now, Kylie and I are very much geographically attuned because she was showing you a route around a city. This is another route around a city. It's information I collected while I was on a bicycle after a conference once in New York City. And I put that data into ArcGIS Online. And here's my route. So that's a very simple map. It's got one layer. You remember looking at layers with Kylie. I've got a base map and one layer. Very simple map. And so this is in ArcGIS Online. You've got all of the capabilities that Kylie explored with you, Kylie and Charlie, measuring, changing the base map, etc. And so that can be used, that same information can be used in a web mapping application. A web mapping application, it's still stored in this same cloud-based geographic information systems architecture, more about that later, but it contains some specialized things that you can do and look at. So in this case, I made a web mapping application, and we'll talk about in future mapping hours how to do that. I've got two things in here. I've got the median age of the population in the different neighborhoods that I traversed. And you can see I traveled basically from a younger neighborhood into New Jersey into an older neighborhood. Now we went across what I've always wanted to do as a geographer, the Henry Hudson Bridge, the George Washington Bridge specifically, but I felt like Henry Hudson over that bridge. Now, if you don't like heights or noise, I don't recommend it, but it was wonderful. And you can see the elevation profile, just like the one that you were exploring before with my wonderful colleagues. So this is a web mapping application with the same data from my bicycle. Now, also in this future installments of the mapping hour, we're going to explore story maps, multimedia. In fact, you've already looked at one in that very last example that Kylie showed with the pictures around Washington, D.C. A story map, which some of you may be familiar with. If not, we'll explore those in future mapping hour sessions. But a story map is a certain kind of web mapping application. It has certain things in it. In this case, a story map I made shows some income, it shows the diversity index, some streets, etc. So a different kind of view, but in the same area. Now, what I'm going to do here in this next segment is to explore a specific kind of web mapping application. And that's going to be with this web mapping application right here that Charlie built. It's going to have a 2D map and a 3D map. The nice thing about this particular web mapping application is it touches on comparison. Now, many of us love to look at changes on the Earth over space and time. We have a dynamic planet, don't we? Lots of things going on. So this is great for exploration. And while I go through this, I'm going to be very much aligned with what Kylie and Charlie were doing with you. This is not a predefined script. I encourage you, while you're doing any of this kind of work, to think about, ooh, what if I changed the base map? What if I added a layer? What if I changed the scale? What kind of patterns, relationships, and trends do you see? That's what makes, we think, these tools so compelling. You're not confined to a box. You are welcome to explore. GIS has always been about exploration and solving problems. So what Charlie did when he built this particular web mapping application is he put this box right at the beginning. And so it's got a few directions on it, again, that you can use or not use, but it's a nice way of kind of getting into this. So we're going to zoom out on the left, for example, right now. And these tools should look pretty familiar to you because over the last segment, you explored some of these tools, measuring, zooming and panning, etc., with my colleagues. So if we zoom out, you can see that on this screen, we've got a 2D map and a 3D web scene. So the nice thing about ArcGIS Online is that it has, as you've seen, and will continue to see, 3D capabilities. Now, which is better? They're both good. And so one of the things that's going to run through all of our presentations is that pick the most appropriate tool for the job. Okay, pick the most appropriate tool for the job. So what can we do with this? As you can see here on the left side, we've got a 2D map. It's centered on Hawaii because Charlie loves Hawaii, and what's not to love? And so one of the things that I used to do way back in the late Cretaceous period when I worked at the USGS is to try to get students and the general public, for that matter, understanding what topographic maps are, and what contour lines are, and how to visualize 2D and 3D. Well, now we've got this capability, as you can see here, where, look, on the right side here, as I use the tools that are on the left of the map, I can actually go into some of the craters and some of the volcanoes and some of the rift zones. And I can see the contour lines depending on the base map that we pick, but I can also see this in really sharp detail in my 3D scene. And I can also look on the 2D map on the left side. Now, in addition to that, we can type in different places. Charlie's got the search tool that he built into this web mapping application. So I can, for example, I can look at Morrison, Colorado, very near and dear to me because it's very close to where I am right now. So on the left side, again, I've got a base map. Ooh, can I change the base map? Yes, I can. I can toggle this to different kinds of base maps. On the right side, I've got a 3D view. I can change that as well. So for example, I can look at this as you were doing a little bit with Kylie, where I can see, oh, okay, well, on the contour map, for example, I can see these contour lines. And on the right side, I can really visualize. I could always determine whether students were really understanding contour lines because usually at some point during the lesson, they would say, oh, I understand. And that's what these tools in part help you to do. So looking at lava fields versus volcanic environments versus eskers, glacial terrain, coastlines, etc. And also the human environment. How have cities changed over the years? Another thing that we can do with these tools is we can, just like we were doing before, we can use the measure tool. Now, how do I get back to the globe quickly? Well, there is a home button on each of these. And so if I click on home, I'm going to go to what's called the default map view. And so you see Hawaii at a certain scale. And since I've changed the base map on the right, I'm going to go ahead and change it back to what I had originally. So there's always a way to go back. Like Kylie was saying, there's nothing you can do that's wrong here, and you can always get back. And if you didn't remember that home button was there, you could always refresh this page. I'm not signed in. I can just refresh this page and it would come back to how I had originally. So let's say we do this. Many of your students have struggled maybe in the past with the understanding of, we touched on this a little bit earlier, but map projections. How do we project the 3D Earth onto a two-dimensional map? More about this in coming episodes, but the default view inside ArcGIS Online is something called Web Mercator. It is a modified version of the Mercator projection. So if I pan up to the northern latitudes, I'm going to get some distortion. But in the globe, we don't have distortion. And so, for example, one of the things that you might teach frequently is have you ever flown from the USA over to Europe, for example? So here I am, I'm gonna measure, and if I hover over the measure tool, it says, okay, start to measure by clicking to make your first point. So here I am over here in Denver. Uh-oh, why is this line curving? This is a nice little teachable moment. Who's ever flown over to Europe? You actually touch the southern part of Greenland. Why would that be? Well, it's because we're projecting the three-dimensional oblate spheroid, not exactly a perfect sphere, onto a two-dimensional surface or a digital screen like we have here. I can also do that on the right side. I've got a measure tool, thanks to Charlie, because he built it into the web mapping application. So if I do that same kind of thing over here, same kind of tool. Okay, I'm going to go here and notice, now here is where I can see what I did there. I grabbed the middle part of the mapping application and I scooted it over. So now I can see, maybe I scooted over a little bit more so I can see a little bit more of Europe here. Ooh. And maybe move this, yeah. So see what I mean? The reason why it's curved is because it is the shortest distance between 2 points, but we're projecting onto, on the left side, a two-dimensional screen there. And then I also encourage you, like Kylie reminded you folks, if you want to go experiment right now, this URL is going to be listed in the resources for this particular mapping hour. Okay, in my last remaining minutes, I hate to cut this off. These are so compelling, but I just wanted to mention a couple of things. And one of which is there's nothing wrong with your PDFs, your static maps. There's nothing wrong with your small maps in your textbooks. And they could take up a whole page. But here we've got the ability, as you saw, for a couple of richer, deeper things that we couldn't do with paper maps or static PDFs. Changing the base map, having live feeds come in, the weather data that Charlie showed, the earthquake data that Kylie showed, etc. And you can add things to them. So they're dynamic teaching and research tools. They're not static. Again, you know that I used to work at USGS, and you may have maybe can identify with my sentiment here. I've got loads of paper maps. They're near and dear to me, but there's something about these that make them very useful in a wide variety of educational disciplines that we'll talk about in a bit. So feel free to experiment with this, pause the video. I'm going to go back to my slides and show you one last thing here, if you don't mind. And that is this. We've showed just in the last few minutes a series of maps, a series of apps, 2D and 3D. Which is better? Well, we want to just lay this out before you that we submit that they're all useful. Again, it depends on your instructional goals, okay? Your purpose for your lesson or for your course, etc. For the end user, this is an imperfect analogy, okay? But your map inside ArcGIS Online, I like to think of it as for the end user of that, you, your students, your kids, etc. It's kind of like the produce section. You've got a lot of different choices, and you can assemble your own salad. You can assemble your own map. You've got measure tools. You can modify the map like Kylie was showing you, and you could add layers. You can change the base map. And you can even do some analysis. That's a preview of coming attractions. So you can customize your experience there. The app, at least for the end user, is more like these Lunchables. You know, these containers, you get 3 carrots and you get 2 crackers and 2 pieces of cheese and 2 pieces of turkey, okay? And the end user of the app, you and I, we didn't, let's say, create that one. Charlie created the comparison app. We'll show you how to do that later. But we can do things in it, right? We could measure, we could change the base map, we can change the location, etc. But we can't reconfigure that map. We can't add different things that Charlie didn't allow us to do. Now, they're both good. They're both very useful. And the last thing that I just wanted to leave you with is that we showed 2D and 3D maps, and that the neat thing about that comparison one is that you've got both. You've got both in the same frame, the same screen. So I hope that was useful. Thanks. I'll turn it over to my colleagues.
Awesome. Great job, Joseph. That's a great app to play with. and being able to see a rectangular map and a globe at the same time is really fun for me anyway. It's a fun thing to do. So where are we? What have we done? It's we've been pushing through trying to cover some things that you and anybody can do just even without signing in. You can jump in and engage these tools to do all kinds of fun exploration. And so what we want to do now is to take a quick summary here. And so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. There I am in that great tour. Kylie, I'm gonna have to, when we're done here, I think I'm gonna have to finish up this tour and see what it's like. But let's see, where are we here? What did we get to do? So this is a little review. We got to talk about the school bundle, esri.com/schools. That's where you can go in and see what's there, what's available. And again, any school in the country, any school around the world even, can get access to software at no cost. What we're doing in these videos is just going to be focusing on the online portions of that bundle. It comes bundled with some desktop tools. We're not going to get into those. We're only going to be working with the online tools. The magic there is that students who are stuck at home may not have access to a computer like they have at school, and they may not be able to use those desktop tools. But if you can get to the internet, you can be working with these tools. You can go in and explore, just like Kylie and I did, the ArcGIS Online 5x5, esriurl.com/AGO5x5, or work with the Compare app that Joseph was working with, arcgis.is/Hawaii Compare. So then, remember that there is a login needed for hours number 4 through 20. So we can do a lot without signing in, but you're going to need to have a login with publisher credentials. So either the publisher or the admin inside of an ArcGIS Online organization have the right credentials. But you can also, if the org admin has created a custom role that has publishing credentials attached to it, that will work as well. You just need to be able to publish things. You can use your own org login if you've got one already, or ask for one from your school org admin if you're a teacher there. Request a bundle for your school. Remember, that's going to take a few days. So if you're ready to rock and roll instantaneously on doing the next things, go ahead and request an org login from our temporary mapping our login collection. Just fill out the survey and indicate, I need one of those logins. Now, what did we do? Let's get a little reminder here. Let's get a little synopsis. Believe it or not, map, scene, app, story map, zoom, pan, tilt, rotate, home, map extent, all of these things we went through. Kylie went through them, or Joseph went through them. And you can go through these things, again, by playing with those. Once we're done with this movie, you can go in and play and see how each of these is getting referenced. A lot of the challenge with GIS is there's very specialized vocabulary attached to it. A base map, scale sensitive layers, map notes, symbols, transparency. All of these things mean stuff to GIS users. And again, as Kylie mentioned, the 3 things that you're going to do as a GIS user most often is just zoom in, zoom out, and slide the map around a little bit. Resources for practicing this. You can go to esri.com/schools. There's that URL for the ArcGIS Online 5x5 and arcg.is/Hawaii Compare. We didn't want you to miss this. We wanted you to make sure that you got this. Now, again, if you're looking for more information about this whole series, go to esriurl.com/mapping hour. Do the survey and request the login if that's what you're there to. I got to make sure I get one of those logins so that you can do hours 4 through 20. But if you just want to explore around, there are going to be some other links there that you'll see that will take you. There is actually a zone that you can get to where you can ask questions about this video series or leave some comments. And if you've got other things that you just want to play some more, I want to go see something. The K-12 organization, k12.maps.arcgis.com, there's a whole section in there that is videos. And if you want to binge watch GIS related videos, that's a place where you can watch and watch and watch. And it's button number 4. You'll see it when you get there, the video bonanza. So what's going to happen next time? We're going to be getting into geo-inquiries. Hey, Tom, jump on in here. And these geo-inquiries, is this going to be fun for people?
Oh, heck yeah. We're going to review a couple of them, what they can do with them, both at home or at school, and kind of the fun things that we can all learn by using one or more of them.
And even if people aren't really studying geography, there'll be something for them?
Oh, that's okay. We got geo-inquiries for everybody's interests. So whether
Cool.
it's American literature, mathematics, maybe it's science, maybe it's geography, history, we got you covered.
Awesome. So we'll get into the geo-inquiries next time, and Tom's going to have a big role from here on out, focusing on those geo-inquiries. More map viewer tools, and we'll get into features and attributes and tables, oh my. But that's in our next video, the mapping hour. That's it for this session. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
See ya.
Take care.
See ya.
Bye. Stay healthy.